So I've explained a little bit about the violence that I witnessed as a kid and how it impacted me as a kid. And some of the signs and some of the flags that were flown high with regards to it. But if I were to tell you how did those events and how did that violence as a youngster affect me in my personal life, I would say for the longest time into adulthood, I would have told you not at all. I would have told you that I was able to overcome, that I learned some things, and my strength and confidence was able to get me through it. And my sisters were affected, but not me. I'm too strong. But I think as time went on and I had to look deep into my own soul and to my own spirit, it took a long time for me to actually realize what impact what I experienced as a kid with regards to domestic violence really had on my life. I personally struggled with alcohol, not only through my younger years, but well into my adulthood, into my career. I wasn't personally never got violent. In fact, I know a lot of people that experience violent situations often repeat them later in life, and that certainly wasn't the case with me. Physical violence was just stamped into my brain as something bad, something you could never do. But I think the fear that existed, the uncertainty that existed, how it affected my confidence, the relationship that it had with myself and my mother, and how it diminished over time, I'd say it had a pretty big impact on me. To what degree, I don't know. I think the fact that the violence that I witnessed was usually at the start of alcohol. Alcohol, drugs was something that I definitely turned to at a younger age, and then just continued with alcohol well into my adulthood. And it wasn't until my walk with Christ and my ability to absolutely lay everything at God's feet that I was able to really understand the impact that it really had on my life. As I got older, I learned that it's important to be in control, because as a kid, the things that I experienced, the things that I would witness, I was never in control. Someone else always had control. Someone else always had control of the situation that usually spun out of control. So I would turn to other things to escape and try to block reality. And so I think there were a lot of long-lasting impacts that it had on my life. And then I think about my two older sisters and what they witnessed. I think we all dealt with the difficulty of growing up and the violence that we witnessed. We all handled it in a different way. I know my sisters sought help. My sister that's just older than me, we talk about it a lot to this day, and I know that she struggled for years in trying to deal with it. Me personally, I think it probably had an effect on many parts of my life. So, having dealt with domestic violence and the impact that it had on my life, what rescued me from the situation, or what allowed me to get through it, was really faith. As a kid, when you experience those situations that go on and there's a lot of fear, you really don't have any place to go. You really don't have anywhere to turn to. Somehow, by the grace of God, I found a Bible. And I just remember opening it. I didn't know the New Testament from the Old Testament, but I remember just opening it and reading and trying to understand what I was reading. And I can't tell you to this day what verses I read, but what I can tell you is that the power of God through Scripture, and I think it was myself just turning to God and asking for help, which is really probably the only place that I could go for help, was something that I gravitated to. And I think I didn't know how to pray at the time, but I knew how to ask for relief. And there's no doubt that God heard my prayers. It was a short time later that I ended up ended up going to live with my dad, and ended up at an aunt's and bounced around from different family members at about the age of 12 or 13 to try to leave the situation. But God answered prayers, and He put in my path an aunt that heard of the situation that was going on and took me in at a young age, and ended up raising me for a couple of years. Had me baptized, and gave me a whole new lease on life for a couple of years anyway as a kid. And so, for myself, turning to God, turning to my faith, those were the immediate things that rescued me from the situation at a younger age. It was not till later in life when I really, truly understood and began to understand my relationship with God that I was really able to face a lot of the demons that existed. I know that a lot of people deal with this type of situation in a lot of different ways, but for me it was really self-searching, looking within, asking God to try to help me understand. And then I think what is also important is just your ability to be able to talk to others and be able to relate to others. And I think it's important that you can be able to talk about some of this stuff. These are subjects and these are things that really nobody wants to talk about. There's skeletons in the closet that nobody wants to release. But I think being able to talk about them, being able to try to just verbally communicate with people about what you experienced, trying to be understanding of what it is that they might have experienced, and then talking about it. But I think it was through my faith, my understanding through God, which really rescued me.